Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sound Solutions podcast with MusicWorks. My name is Angela, and today I'm really excited about our episode because we are talking about music therapy and creative arts programs for active duty military and veterans. So MusicWorks' sister organization is called Resounding Joy, and we're a nonprofit organization that serves a wide variety of populations from children all the way until older adults. And our Semper Sound program is one of our key programs where we serve military populations and families. So I have here with me today Corey. So Corey, tell us what's going on this special day.
Thanks for having me, Angela. Yeah, my name is Corey Woodrow, and I'm the director of the Semper Sound program, so I oversee all of our military music therapy programming. And today is a very special day at the Creative Arts Pop-Up Cafe because this was an opportunity for clients that I work with to share what they've been working on in sessions in a community type of aspect or avenue. Because when I found out that we were going to have this event, I saw it as an opportunity for individuals that wanted to perform or who used to perform and were interested in getting back into performing. I saw this as an opportunity for us to be working towards this day and these performances. And we've had a couple of active duty service members come up and do some of their first performances ever that they've been working towards. And then we also have some active duty service members who had performed in the past, and this is them getting back in touch with that creative outlet that they maybe got out of touch with in their time as an active duty service member.
Yeah, and the Creative Arts Cafe is such a cool event that we're having. There's kids doing crafts, and we have lots of booths, and this is an event that's put together by the Creative Forces Network, which is a coalition of different organizations all around San Diego, different arts-based organizations that are serving military. So what are some of the organizations that are part of this program?
Yeah, sure. We have the NEA, which is the National Endowment of the Arts. They are like the umbrella organization for a lot of this. So they're the creative arts forces. And to my knowledge, they offer music therapy, art therapy, drama therapy, and writing therapy as well. And we have the organizations that we have here today. We have combat art and vet art. And both of those companies are, some of them I believe have art therapy programs, but it's mainly using creative arts as the modality for healing and allowing thoughts and feelings to be expressed non-verbally, right, but visually instead. We also have So Say We All, which is a program that focuses on the use of writing for healing. So we've had a couple of veterans, and I believe both of them were veterans, and they came up and they read their poetry that they had created, and it was very touching. And I'm sure for those of us who were there and got to experience it, I'm sure they would agree that.
Yeah, in just a little bit, we're going to speak with one of those folks who shared her story and hear her talk about how writing has been a source of healing for her in dealing with her PTSD and trauma. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Corey. This is such a fun event, and I'm so excited to share with you. We're going to have a couple more interviews on this podcast. We're interviewing some of the veterans and organizers of this event, and so stay tuned for the rest of this podcast. So like I mentioned before, we are currently having lots of performances from the veterans, some of our other clients who come to our center. And first up, for our interviews, we're going to have two veterans who are part of a band called The Cause.
Well, I'm Hilmar Powell, and I sing and play rhythm guitar with The Cause.
I'm Bill Protzman. I play keys for The Cause.
Awesome. Thank you for joining me on the podcast today. So can you share just a little bit about how music and arts has been a part of your journey, a part of your life?
Well, mine's pretty garage band type thing. You know, I started actually when I was 8. My older cousins had a band that you know, but nobody could sing. Mm-hmm. And my parents had given me a transistor radio for my birthday or Christmas or something. But I'm going around singing all these songs, and they're like, "Hey, the kid can sing." So they get me in the band, and I'm singing. And at first it was cool, but then I didn't like just standing there singing, so I was going to quit. But they gave me this bass guitar. The cousin taught me how to tune it and taught me about octaves, and from there, just they kicked the other guy out of the band because he was in family anyway, the other bass player. But just since then, it seems like I've always been in the band all through high school. Mm-hmm. And then when I was in the Navy, you know, I had my guitar all halfway around the world and back, and I just always played music. You know, my mother did sing really well, and my father could play piano, and it was just always been a part. You know, when we were kids and growing up, the music was, you know, a big deal. You know, it was part of everything. You know, record collections and, you know, very social activity.
Yeah. How about for you?
Oh, Mom was a piano teacher, so like our family was musical, except for my dad, who couldn't play. Like, he could poke things on the piano, but he didn't play. But my sister and I played. My mom started me when I was like 3 years old, and it's been this trajectory ever since of just being with music. Most of that back then was like classical piano. I still remember the first song I learned, which is really silly, but for some reason I do.
Yeah.
And somewhere around 7, 8 years old, I started to get interested in how music works on people, and watching people respond to music became a fascination for me. So I've carried that along now for another 50 years, something like that, and have this opportunity like to work with veterans in the music area, which is how incredible is that, to be able to be a part of that process, you know, working with people who really need it. And the coolest thing about music, you know this, is when you connect with somebody over music, you really build this bond that it's really resilient. You know, working with somebody in a band is like, that's about as close as you can get.
Yeah.
And it's been incredible. Work with Hill and the Cause and a bunch of other veterans through Guitars for Vets, Resounding Joy.
Yes.
I got to play in the Semper Sound thing a while back. It was really cool. This is just the greatest thing to do with music.
Yeah.
Really
and how do you think that music has helped you just connect with other veterans, or as you came back from your
Bill has
deployment?
mentioned Guitars for Vets. I went through that with him, and then I was like one of the instructors. He was the coordinator. And teaching veterans to play guitar, you know, starting them from like ground zero. I was just talking basics, you know, they needed more advanced stuff. There was a more advanced guy. But me and this other guy, Colin Graves, we actually started a chapter up at Camp Pendleton. And we're sitting, you know, teaching active duty Marines just coming back from deployment, just getting ready to go out, you know, and you know, you don't just, you know, it's not just about the guitar, you know, you talk to these guys and you get to know them, and it's they get to trust you with certain, you know, because I mean, you're teaching something, you connect, you know, and you get kind of protective, possessive, whatever of your students, like, you know, you really love, you know, love watching these guys learn and picking it up, you know.
I grew up chronically depressed, and I still, like, if I were diagnosed, that would be the diagnosis. The other half of that is that I also have schizophrenic tendencies. So I'm on both ends of this. It's like the extreme bipolarity of the scale. That's me. So there are times in your life where the only thing that's left is to separate from your space and pick up a guitar, sit at the piano, and just play. And let that stuff be. Whatever that feeling is, just let it be with whatever your music is. And that's literally saved my life twice. And I don't know where I'd be without it. I mean, it's that important. Yeah. It's that important.
That was Bill Protzman and Hilmar Powell from The Cause. And I apologize for all of the noise that's happening in the background. There's kids who are checking out our Music Wellness Center, which is right next to the recording studio, and they're banging away on drums and pianos and everything. So hope you understand. Next, we're going to have on the show Jason Danley, who is instrumental in organizing this event today, and he's a veteran, and he received services from Resounding Joy, participated in the Semper Sound Band, which you heard those guys talking about, which is a way to get these veterans engaged in music making together. Let's welcome Jason to the show.
My name is Jason Danley, and I'm a Navy veteran. I served 6 years. 3 of that was with the Marines, out of 29 Palms. And I did one deployment with them to Iraq and then one deployment to Afghanistan. And then that was kind of the end of my Navy career, and I got out after 6 years.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here with me today.
Yeah, no problem.
So just share a little bit about how music and the arts have been a part of your journey.
So after returning from Afghanistan, I was dealing a lot with PTSD and TBI, and after being at Balboa for a little while, I was introduced to music therapy, where I met Rebecca,
Mm-hmm.
and then that got me involved more in the Semper Sound band, and I got back to playing the bass, which at that point I didn't play for 8 years.
Yeah.
So Resounding Joy just really got me back into music and kind of rediscovered my passion for music. And then it just grew upon that, and now I started writing my own music and started writing my own lyrics, and eventually hoping to record my own songs, and and then be able to pass what I've learned on to other veterans, so they can kind of have the same thing. And as well, it's also Resounding Joy has brought my kids in for lessons, so it's been something that our whole family has been able to benefit from, and just seeing the growth in my kids and their music abilities, and so we're all writing songs together now.
Yeah,
so it's just,
that's awesome.
One thing with being in the military and being away for so long, you kind of lose that connection with your kids or your spouse. So what music and what Resounding Joy has done is kind of brought our family back together.
Yeah.
And we kind of have this common ground where we can just pull out the keyboard, pull out the guitars or the ukuleles or drums or whatever, and we can just jam together.
Yeah, that's so cool. It was fun watching your kids perform up here earlier.
Yeah.
They looked like so confident. They're having a really good time, and it's fun to see that they're able to enjoy music, and that's a family activity for you guys. Yeah. What were some of the biggest challenges re-entering into civilian life after being away?
So I think it's a lot of it was losing the camaraderie and the closeness of the men and women that I served with, and then trying to figure out how to integrate that into this civilian world. And then also I guess just trying to find a new purpose. I guess, because we in the military we had our job, and that was kind of where we found our identity, our purpose. And getting out, especially with an injury where we're just medically separated all of a sudden, or medically retired, you didn't prepare for it, so you're just instantly trying to reintegrate in a culture that you don't understand.
Yeah, just you're having to navigate a totally different world with a different perspective, and not the same community that you had before.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so how did the Semper Sound Band and your involvement with music therapy help during that process?
So with that, it's really awesome, especially when we had a close-knit group that we played with regularly. It just really brought back that camaraderie. And we were all going through our own stuff, whether it was illness or injury or PTSD or TBI. We were all, when we were playing together, none of that mattered.
Yeah.
There was nothing, there was no judgment, there was no comparing of anything, and it was just us playing together and just having fun, and it just really brought back some of that camaraderie.
That was Jason Danley. Next, I'm going to be talking to his wife, Christina, who is also a veteran.
Music therapy and Resounding Joy have been absolutely amazing in our life. For having a combat vet come home and not know how to connect not only to everyone else but us as well. Having a young family, music has actually been the common ground that we've had for our son's entire life, and created that commonality for our entire family. And so now it's a family affair that, all the kids are involved in. It's become such a huge thing in this journey of healing, that's reconnected us in so many different ways. And it's just been awesome, the people that we've been able to meet and the things that have gone on because of it. And it's really just grown so much because of the foundation of what music therapy has allowed him to do and to reconnect with our son and us as a family, that it's just grown so much bigger. And now to just have a really bright future with that connection with music and be able to emotionally process so many things that sometimes words don't have the availability to do the same thing. So it's been really beautiful to just be a part of that and to watch him grow into a whole person again, rather than the shell of what came home at one point a long time ago.
Yeah, so I just want to ask you a little bit more about that. What were some of those challenges and those obstacles for you as a spouse, when he came back home?
Yeah, so that was really an interesting journey. Being a vet myself and working at the same hospital that we eventually got connected to, I saw a lot of what went on and what to almost expect for that journey. And I think most people don't have that experience, as well as not being a veteran, understanding, being in their shoes. But I think the biggest thing really is just trying to understand things that you really don't understand. And sometimes there's not words that go with it. And one thing I had to learn is just learning how to listen, because sometimes that's what people need the most, rather than trying to fix it, because we can't fix it. It's a journey they have to go through themselves, and we're just along for the ride. But just being able to really be that support and be that common, safe zone to open up that, and then having other avenues to be able to open that up as well. And for Jason, it was music, and for our family, that, if he just needed his quiet time, he just went and wrote a song or did something like that. So then he's processing things that he doesn't know how to express, and then eventually the words came with it. So as a spouse, it was just really, having peace with that journey, that there is going to be space that needs to happen. But as well, for our family, just having that sense of peace that he was trying to get better. It wasn't just kind of this end point and I'm stuck. He was always moving forward and always wanting to process things and grow as a family and be a closer family. So we're really blessed for that.
Yeah. What are some things that kept you strong, and what are some things that you needed to do for yourself and to be able to support him in the way that you needed to? That journey was really interesting, just for the simple fact that no one really will ever understand that journey, and it was not having the expectation that someone else would. I don't expect to have common ground, even being a military veteran, being a spouse, being combat related. We're medically separated. There's so many things that, even though we're in this umbrella of military life, there's so many things that separated us. And so I wasn't trying to find, for me, I didn't necessarily need a community to know we were going to be okay. I just needed to know that, okay, if he's willing to work through things, we will be okay. And thankfully, for me, it was really just having my spiritual belief and having a tight family that, even if they didn't understand, they were supportive. But I think not having an expectation of what this journey is supposed to look like, because it's not cookie cutter. It's not, everyone's story is different. And it's just learning to accept your journey for what it is, because for whatever reason, you've gone through it or not gone through something, and it's not to make you different, it's to make you stronger, to then be able to connect with other people. And that's something we feel really powerful about, that we've gotten through everything that we have to be able to connect in a different way with people, to then, be able to really just express what things can possibly happen for people. Yeah. All right. Is there any other advice that you would give to spouses or family members of military service members?
We kind of live in this generation where we just kind of have a very quick quit button. And that's something that we never had. It's hard to, not to judge anyone's story or what that looks like, but that was just something that we were never going to give up. It may be really hard. It was really dark at times. I used to make jokes of what living with a combat vet was like, and none of them were great.
Yeah.
But it's just knowing that we weren't going to give up on each other, that, no matter how hard it got, no matter what was going on. I think that's the biggest thing, because we live in a society that, it's just so easy when it's hard to back away. And it's just learning to lean forward. And if you need support, reach out for it. There are plenty of opportunities to have support, to have organizations. And yes, they may be hard to find or connect with, but don't give up. Mm-hmm. Just don't give up. There's just tie another knot in that rope and just hold on for another day, because there's tons of people that want to help, and there's tons of people that want to do more, and that you will find those connections. And it's just, it's out there. You just gotta, reach out for the right people. And so, yeah, just don't quit. You're definitely, you've gotten this far in this journey. Why else would, there's no other reason that you've gotten this far, that there's a greater purpose for what you have. There's a greater connection. And for us, it's come full circle to be, a family that participated in music therapy, to now be on the other end, that we're actually helped to build this stronger, to help other veterans. It's like, there's a greater purpose to it all.
And now you're super involved with coordinating this event and, being one of the arrangers to provide support for other veterans and military families. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and that's even one of the things now is one of my hugest passions that I have with Resounding Joy now is to be able to actually connect us more to the community and to other veterans, so that we can really, just create a bigger community and create more awareness, because there's so many things out there that no matter what you talk in conversations, like, oh, I didn't know that existed. And, going through that for the last 12 years, that's the one thing that is so hard. And it's like, it shouldn't be this hard to find these resources, so let's make it easier. Yeah. And so that's one thing I've become really passionate about with what we're doing for this event and what we're doing for Resounding Joy this year.
Now I'm going to be talking with an awesome arts organization that serves military service members called Combat Arts San Diego. All right, so I'm here with Elizabeth Washburn, who is the Executive Director of Combat Arts San Diego. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So just tell me a little bit about how you got involved, how you started working with veterans.
So the start of Combat Arts happened with me volunteering over at the Balboa Naval Hospital in 2007, providing free art classes to wounded warriors over there. And then a Navy psychiatrist who was opening up a post-traumatic stress clinic over on the Point Loma submarine base asked me to come over and provide my services to the service members getting treatment for PTSD and traumatic brain injuries. So in 2010, I started over at Oasis on Point Loma, and we have a weekly art class that's part of their weekly calendar of programming. And in those classes, we teach about basic elements of making art, how to create ideation strategies for creating subject matter for art. And then moving on from there, we started also giving art exhibitions out in the community of combat veteran artwork. We do museum tours in local museums such as the Museum of Contemporary Art, the Timken Museum, San Diego Museum of Art. And also we provide mentoring and job opportunities for veterans to work with us. And lastly, we have public art opportunities for combat vets to come out in the community and do murals and sculptures for neighborhoods. We did one for Mission Hills neighborhood. We've done one for the Normal Heights neighborhood. We've done one for the Kearney Mesa VFW. So we do a whole host of things, all revolved around the arts and using it as a tool to self-express and reduce stress.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to go into that a little bit more, how does art help veterans?
Art it's actually not only is it something that just makes people feel good, it's actually science. So making and viewing art reduces stress and anxiety, lessens symptoms of depression, and is a great cognitive strengthener for individuals who have suffered brain injuries, severe concussions or repeated concussions over time, has a lot of damage on the brain. And making art has a special capacity to help them to reroute around some of those injuries, create new pathways to help in managing the symptoms from their injuries.
Wow, that's really awesome. I see how visual arts connects closely with music therapy.
Absolutely.
And I love that we're doing this Creative Arts Cafe because we're really encouraging expression through so many different art forms, whether it's writing, visual arts, or music.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, these cafes are fantastic for getting veterans to know what's out there in the community for them to access that they may not previously have known about.
Yeah. So for any veterans out there who might be listening to this podcast, what advice would you have? How can individuals start incorporating art into their own lives?
That's a good question. It can happen through organized art classes initially, and then after that, it can. I got a lot of guys making art from YouTube videos, quite frankly. So YouTube is a great resource for basics on trying to figure out how to draw specific stuff or learn how to paint a little bit. So either one of those. So individually, they can, research stuff like on YouTube, and then out in the community, they can access organizations like mine, Combat Arts San Diego. There's also Vet Arts that's here today. There's you guys with the music therapy, Resounding Joy. We've got So Say We All, which is creative writing. So there's a whole host of opportunities in San Diego, and sometimes it's just a matter of veterans having the opportunity to know they exist.
That was Elizabeth Washburn with Combat Arts San Diego. Next, we'll be hearing from a couple folks from So Say We All, which is a literary and performing arts organization that helps people tell their stories.
Hi, how you doing? My name is Justin Hudnell, and I am the executive director of So Say We All.
Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. So can you just share with me a little bit about what your organization is?
Sure. So Say We All was founded about 10 years ago this February, so that would be in 2009, with a mission to help people tell their stories and tell them better. And we tackle that by teaching people creative writing and storytelling workshops, so there's education. We present their works on stage in live shows in front of audiences all over town. And we run a small print press and NPR radio show called Incoming, which features true stories by veterans in their own words. So we take people from the beginning of an idea of a story all the way through to the completion in a kind of like you can't fail process.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how does writing help veterans?
It's funny because sometimes a lot of people come up to me and when we do our veteran writers division, and they'll say things like, "Oh, it must be so therapeutic for the vets." And I always say, like, have you ever met a happy writer? This is really hard stuff, but yes. I think it's actually if it's therapeutic for anybody, it's probably therapeutic for civilians who don't really know what their military does.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I think that we have this kind of zeitgeist where we know that less than 1% of the country's serving, and there's huge things happening on behalf of us over there that we, but we don't actually know a veteran. And if you don't actually hear the stories from veterans, you're going to default to what? Hollywood, and they always get it wrong, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's only 3 kinds of veterans you'll see in a movie, and that's the hero, the villain, or the victim. And I've never met any of those people in real life.
Yeah, I was talking to some folks at this event today, and it was really interesting to hear their stories and to hear what they had to share. And, in talking to spouses of veterans, they talked about how one of the most important things is to listen to their spouse. And there's going to be things that they're not going to be able to really understand about that person's experience.
Right.
So I think it's really cool how writing can be a tool and a medium
Absolutely.
To express.
Right, and you don't have to have that pressure of doing it in the moment, and I'm one of them. That moment when you see yourself telling a story and you can see the discomfort on someone's face, and it makes you not want to tell that story anymore, right? And so writing is a really good opportunity to kind of represent yourself in a way that gives you a little bit of a distance and a little bit of preparation, everybody loves to be shown curiosity, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you notice in the process of, maybe someone coming to your organization for the first time? Maybe they've never really written anything before. How do you help them through that process? What are some things that they have to work through?
Right. It's really funny. One of the things we hear the most is, I'm not a writer, or I don't have any stories to tell. And storytelling is kind of like, it has that connotation of being for kids, but the reason we use it so much more than writing is because literally if you've ever had a bad day and a drink and someone to listen to you, you've told a story. It's like you you can't opt out of participating in that art form as a human being, right? So we start off, right when they say, I don't have anything to talk about or anything to write about, within about 5 minutes, they've started talking about a story because it starts popping up, right? And we go from there. And so developing it out, learning the point of your own narrative, your own story. What's the point of that thing I've been through? What's the takeaway for me? I think it helps you come to terms with your own life while you're crafting this thing for other people at the same time.
Yeah. I was talking to another individual who has gone through that process of writing, and we were talking about how, in music therapy, we use songwriting as a medium in which to express, and how it's similar in the same way of we're taking this creative process and sort of looking at an experience or an emotion from a third party point of view almost, and looking at it from a different perspective, and maybe in a way that's not too threatening,
right?
Where it's hard to come to terms with some experiences or emotions that have been a part of your life, but being a part of that crafting process can be so helpful and therapeutic.
It provides a little bit of I don't want to say distance, but perspective.
A buffer almost. Yeah,
and a little bit of stepping outside of yourself, looking in, kind of a feeling. There's a lot of parallels to songwriting. I mean, when we workshop someone's story, we refer to the person telling the story on the page is the narrator, or the main character, even though we know, everyone knows we're talking about the person who wrote it, right? But that one little step aside, it takes it off. It takes the pressure off of feeling like you're being judged, It's more objective. And, as a very emotional person, being objective is very freeing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another thing that I just love about music making and arts and writing is that it's a process that you can come out with a product at the end. So writing can be very therapeutic. Music is therapeutic. And so you're involved with the creation of something, and then you have this product that you can share at the end that other people can relate to.
Right. No, it's the most important service art provides, is it metabolizes all of this tragedy into something actually useful,
absolutely.
Or entertaining, if that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Hey, it's an honor. Thank you so much.
One of those storytelling veterans is here today at the Creative Arts Cafe to share her story.
My name is Sheree Engel, and I'm a U.S. Air Force veteran. I was an air traffic controller and post 9/11, and now I am a writer and a storyteller.
Yeah. So can you just talk a little bit about how creative arts or music or writing has been an integral part of your journey?
Not to be too dramatic, I really honestly see that it has saved my life. I kind of lived with a lot of pain for a very long time and shoved it down, and never really knew where to put it. And it was maybe 6 years ago now. Yeah. I stumbled on a spoken word arts event in South Park with an organization called So Say We All, and people got up to the mic and they were telling curated personal stories, and it was just amazing to see people being so brave and willing to open up. So that was my first glimpse into what was possible, and so then I just set up this challenge for myself. I kind of had this year for my voice where I just really felt this urge to open up and talk about some very difficult things that had happened to me in my life, and I really truly felt at that time very alone, that I was the only one that had experienced these types of things, and through that process of submitting a story through this organization and then having it produced and the care that they took with me and the support, it just really was this moment, a literal moment of breaking the silence. And so from there, I was able to gain access to other groups of veterans in the arts, and even more possibilities opened up. And so kind of fast forwarding through the years, it kind of gave me the strength to go through intensive therapy with the VA, something that I was just terrified to do.
Yeah.
And then just sitting at a table with a bunch of veterans and being able to talk about our experiences in the service and elsewhere, talking about vague, difficult to explain things that we experienced and felt. It was just an incredible experience. It seemed like every time somebody else opened up, another person was more willing to do it. And then to kind of use a form of art as like this vehicle for these experiences gave us a job to do. And because we were all kind of like-minded in that we were there to get a job done, we pushed through that really hard work. And I do have to say there was a period of time where I was both going through an intensive PTSD therapy program and meeting with my veterans writing group at the same time. And it was the best form of therapy ever. And, you know, our journey is never done, but it definitely has put me on a path where I feel more sure of myself, more comfortable in my own skin, and definitely more confident in my own voice and my own story. And I find value and importance in it.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. It sounds like the creative arts piece of that was just a way for you to find your voice, and, you know, it's maybe a more comfortable way of facing those really tough things that are hard to say out loud, and a different way of expression.
It always kind of reminds me of, you know, I'm a mom, and there was a time when my son was afraid. He thought that there was a monster in his room, and I would go to him and say, no, there's no monster, it's just a shadow, or it's just a pile of your clothes on the floor. But he saw a monster. And so then I realized that I needed to understand and know what his monster was. And so I started asking him questions about his monster. What does your monster look like? What is your monster saying? And then over a period of time, it was, well, what do you think your monster is feeling right now? And then suddenly that monster became this thing that he could describe and kind of maneuver in his own mind to be something that was not this terrifying thing, but actually was something that he could understand on some degree and not be so afraid of it. And I feel like arts, you know, the arts have been this process of me kind of pulling the monster out from underneath the bed and examining it in a way that I feel safe doing so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate that. That's so cool to hear how, like, writing has been that medium of expression for you and a way to face the monsters under the bed. And what kind of things do you write?
For a long time, I wrote personal essays, you know, kind of you write the stories that you need to tell to get to the other stories that reside inside of you. And now, right now, I'm focusing on playwriting.
Yeah, cool.
And, you know, still telling my own story, but also telling the stories of other people in a very kind of creative and interesting way, which kind of folds on itself, because when you're working on a creative project that involves other people, their input kind of shows you things about yourself that you weren't aware of before, which is just another amazing thing to have.
That was Sheree Engel. What a beautiful story of healing and transformation through the art of writing. Last but not least, we're going to have another awesome arts organization on the show called Vet Arts.
My name is Heidi Kubler, and I am the assistant to the executive director of the Veterans Art Project. Stephen Dilley is the executive director, and we provide art for veterans, active duty, their spouses, and their children over the age of 12. We have a foundry up in Fallbrook that practices the ancient art of bronze casting. And we're in the process of setting up a woodworking studio up there too, so that's in our future. And then we have a Vista studio where we do ceramics and glass.
That's so cool.
And classes are free. So for any veteran or spouse and their families can come by and take a free art class.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here today with Reggie Green, who is one of our instructors. Reggie?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for joining us today. So how did you get involved with that art?
Well, I'm brand spankin' new. I started at the beginning of the month in February, and Steve Dilley has been a close personal friend of mine for more than 15 years, and this is his vision and his dream, and he needed a little bit of organizational management because lots of things are happening. The collaboration with all of these groups who are here today has just, he's one person and he's got a lot of great instructors and wonderful facilities. And so I've been brought on to just help with kind of the organizational management and getting the word out to bring these wonderful classes to our servicemen and women in San Diego County.
Sweet. That's awesome. What about you?
That's a good job. I don't know if I can. I got into the thing. I did a recreational therapy program at the VA La Jolla because I'm a retired veteran, and I got a hold of sculpting and stuff like that, and I saw that bronze casting was offered for veterans, so I went there to Fallbrook to get casted, and I liked the vision of Steve Dilley and everything, so I volunteered for a year and a half with them, and then they just hired me in October.
That's
so
awesome.
I was volunteering with Steve Dilley with Vet Art at the Latin and African Museum in Old Town, and Vet Art ended up hiring me, so I just been with them ever since.
Wow, that's really cool. How does creative arts help veterans and active duty military?
I think it gives us an outlet through art, like people with trauma or, PTSD or anything like that. I think it gives them something that they can put their energy into and help with any mental issues or anything that they have. So, and it's free for veterans, so, that's an opportunity to give them to use their creative mind and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we also think that, there's so much transition that our servicemen and women have, especially when they're transitioning out of the military and back into civilian life. And just the process of art to sit down and go through the process of working with clay and creating something. It's a quiet time. It's a time to process whatever transitioning any human being might be going through, and the veteran population and the folks that we've worked with so far, they just respond so well to it, and it just seems to add something that isn't being fulfilled in their lives in any other category of activity. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is one of the most beautiful things that we bring to the veteran and military population.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that has come up in conversation with a lot of folks today is how the arts, it serves as a way to bring the community together and to form connections with people. And, it's a way that folks can support each other.
Absolutely.
With whatever stuff that they're going through, the arts can be a safe space that they can come to.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a huge component too, is the community, bringing civilians together with our military men and women so that they can feel the same support and feel the same community that they had with the military services, especially as they're transitioning out. I think that's one of the most wonderful things that many organizations that work with veterans in San Diego County are focused on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if someone, a active duty military or a veteran, wanted to come and take an art class, how would they find you? How do they get involved?
The best way is to go to our website at vetart.org. And all of our classes and our location, our hours of operation at our locations are there, and you can sign up online. You can walk through the door at any time. We have open door policy. Anybody who if you happen to be in the neighborhood and want to just come in and check it out, we can walk in and pick up some clay and start doing something within 5 minutes of being there. We're open, and online again is where you can find the best information, but come on by either one of our locations, in Fallbrook where the foundry is, or in Vista where we have the ceramics and glass classes.
Our VA La Jolla, our Aspire Center. So if they're a patient at the VA La Jolla, I'm there on Tuesdays, and they just coordinate with Ellen Berman and come in, and I get them in. So.
Yeah, actually, I do a group at the VA La Jolla on Wednesdays, and so some of the folks who are in my group are in some of these other classes, so they'll come in and show me their crafts that they've done. So
nice.
Yeah, I think that recreational therapy program is so great for these veterans. And one thing that I've noticed just in the past 8 weeks or so that I've started leading this group, I took over for another music therapist that was facilitating that group, but seeing a change even within that 8 weeks. From the first week, I did a drum circle, and we were trying to, make music together as a group, and it was hard to get everyone on the same page. Everyone's playing their own thing, just really kind of disconnected, and, we did our best. By the end of that 8 weeks, when the same individuals have been coming to this group week after week, we're able to make this beautiful music together, so cohesive, and the sound so powerful and strong, and people are expressing themselves and experimenting on the drums and trying new sounds. And I feel like seeing that process was really a reflection of what was happening in the group, within the group dynamics and the relationships of, maybe being disconnected or isolated. And then, over time, developing those relationships and developing a safe space and a support group where they can explore their creativity. Yeah, it's been a really neat experience.
I think that art and music provides a connectivity between humans that is unlike anything else in terms of its ability to connect people and provide healing for whatever it is we endure as human beings. And so for our veteran population and the military, it's really just, I think, a wonderful thing. Thank you for doing what you're doing, too.
Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. It was a pleasure talking with you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Well, I am just so thrilled to have been able to talk to so many amazing people, to hear their stories, and to get to talk about what other arts organizations are doing for military families in the San Diego community. It's really amazing. If you're interested in learning more about what Resounding Joy does, you can find us at resoundingjoyinc.org. That's resoundingjoyinc.org. Check out our Semper Sound program. We're going to be having more creative arts cafes coming up. We have a really big event in partnership with Qualcomm coming up in the next few months. So I encourage you to check out our website, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Resounding Joy Inc. And if you are a music therapist and you work with military populations, or you're hoping to work with military populations, we have some really cool resources coming for you. So currently we're selling online a toolbox for working with military populations. So that gives you a whole bunch of different intervention and exercise ideas to use with your clients. And we're also going to be having a webinar on active music making approaches with military populations with Corey Woodrow, who you heard earlier on the podcast. So he's going to be teaching this webinar, mostly geared towards music therapists, on how to utilize different active music making approaches. It's going to be a great time. Thanks again for joining us on the Sound Solutions podcast. My name is Anna LaFlores, and we'll see you next time.